Dave, I'll start with you. Of those guys, and I think you have the names in front of you, so if you need me to repeat it, I can. But which one concerned you the most of their second half slow finish to what could be hopefully a rebirth or getting back on track in 2023?
Can I pick two, or do I got to give you one?
Sure, you can pick two.
I'm going to put two because they're both older running backs. Alvin Kamara and Nick Chubb are the two that worry me. Kamara a little more so than Chubb, but they're kind of in the same vein just because of their age and because of what we saw last year. In the case of Chubb, he averaged 12.2 PPR points per game once Deshaun Watson came back. That includes 23.2 PPR points in week 18. Before that game, it was 10 flat, 10.0 PPR points per game for Nick Chubb. Was this just him getting used to the offense? Was it the offense changing with Watson and defenses kind of adjusting and the Browns not able to counterpunch? I'm not sure. It makes me a little nervous about Chubb. And I still think I'm going to take him in round 2, late round 2 in full PPR. But it's something that I've got to keep in mind. And it's something that, honestly, I might be able to ask about this offseason and get an idea of how Cleveland might rectify it for 2023. Kamara is a pretty obvious story in this case. 10.7 PPR points per game in his final 8. That's bad for him. He averaged 22.3 in weeks 5 through 9. That's a little bit better than what you'd expect from A to the K, but we know that there's a suspension looming. We don't know how long it is. The offense is changing, and it looks like without having Drew Brees there, or maybe any quarterback that, loves to throw to the running back and is part of a consistent game plan, he's going to struggle. And then you tack Taysom Hill on top of that, and he's losing short yardage touchdowns. I'm nervous to take Alvin Kamara, regardless of round. We're so used to taking him in like round 1 or maybe early round 2 last year. Jamie, Dan, I've got him in round 5 right now. Wow. I'm staying away. I know that there's high upside, but with suspension and everything else I talked about, Taysom Hill, the quarterbacks, the offense, and him getting older, he's a pass.
Dan, what about you? Same question. Who concerns you the most?
I mean, Dave took the two that definitely concern me the most. So in honor of not just repeating what Dave said, I'll go with kind of my third and fourth options. One we already discussed, but I want to just touch on again, DeAndre Swift. Again, last year was supposed to be the breakout year for Swift. A lot of fantasy analysts were in on him. They felt like he was the best value in that range that Dave is discussing, that 1-2 turn. And he got like the best scenario that could have played out for him, a breakout from the offensive system standpoint, from a play calling standpoint, from a design standpoint. The offensive line hit its peak, and yet what happened with DeAndre Swift? He still didn't reach his potential that we've been talking about. So to me, there isn't much of a case left for him. And I know same thing will happen again this year. He'll get boosted up draft boards and probably not to that same range, but maybe into the mid-2 range. So after those two would be Swift. And then one more I might want to throw on there here. I'm just looking at our list of guys, would probably be we can go here with, I like some of these guys, so I probably have the opposite.
Well, I mean, one is fine. I mean, you don't have to be concerned about all these guys the same length, but
yeah, some of these guys I like
running
actually
backs make a lot of sense. Now, of the list again, and I'll read the names to you guys. Sure. So it's Nick Chubb, DeAndre Swift, Chris Olave, Donovan Peoples-Jones, Dallas Goedert, Ramondre Stevenson, Alvin Kamara, Jalen Waddle, David Njoku. Of the ones that struggled in the second half, and again, we'll get more in depth on why they struggled. But of the ones who struggled, which one of those do you say, okay, not even a big deal, I'm not even worried about it. Their second half struggles, just a byproduct of bad play, injuries, things around them falling apart. Dan, I'll start with you. None of these guys concern you. You're not worried about their second half struggles at all.
So it's one you actually didn't mention, but we have him in the notes, and he did struggle in the second half. It's Chris Olave, the rookie wide receiver from the Saints. I think for me with Olave, a lot of those second half struggles were quarterback play related. And in a lot of ways, people say, oh, did he hit the rookie wall? I don't think so. When I watched him, he still looked like the same receiver who has that ability to separate both over the top and in an intermediate range. And I think what happened with the Saints there is they got into a weird kind of area of the season where they were just like, we can grind these wins out like 13-10. They did one against Philly where they had Gardner Minshew, where they had an upset there. And it was just like a weird game. And so I think that will change this offseason when they change and upgrade at quarterback. And that will be a big help for Olave. The talent is there. The air yards were there. There were so many factors in his profile as far as what kind of player he is that get me excited about him. And I think all the reasons, like the second half struggle, actually help keep his ADP down a little bit for some of those rookies. So he's somebody I'll definitely be buying in.
Dave?
So just in I would my knee-jerk reaction was to say Olave as well, but Dan brought up how the Saints won games last year and that grind it out, lean on your defense type of style. For this episode, we can call it the Mike McCarthy style because I think that's what McCarthy's looking for in Dallas. But if they win with that and they don't have a great solution at quarterback this offseason, they might do that again. And that could hurt Chris Olave becoming a top 12 receiver. So we're drafting him somewhere between like wide receiver 15 and 24 off the board. And I feel like we're drafting him a little bit too close to his ceiling, but it also has to be said. He averaged 14 and a half PPR points in his first 10 games in the National Football League. And then he fell below 9 in his final 6. So if it's going to be more like those final 6, and he was dealing with some injuries too. He missed a game with an injury. If it's going to be like that, he's going to be a bust. It's hard to see him being a bust though, because of that speed and just that overall smoothness, that instant acceleration that he has.
Yeah.
I want to see who's sharing the backfield with Ramondre Stevenson in New England. And if it's nobody of major significance, then I bet we see the guy that we saw in weeks 3 through 9. Jamie, do you remember what he averaged in those weeks when he was basically like dominating the touches in that backfield in New England?
No, but that was with Damian Harris hurt, and it was certainly significant. A big part of it was his work in the passing game, which is what kind of led to his second half struggles, which is what's the concern is he going to be that guy? We spent some time talking about Pierre Strong and what his potential role could be in the passing game, or is there somebody else brought in? I would not be surprised. I think, if I'm not mistaken, before Fournette re-signed with Tampa Bay or ended up in Tampa Bay, Belichick was
talked with them.
Sure did. So that could be a pairing that we see if he decides to go there and sort of be the complement to Ramondre Stevenson. So yeah, I think that's a fair one.
He averaged 19.8 PPR points per game, and he had a ton of games with just mega targets. And we love that. We want that to happen. But he averaged 12.4 in his final 8. I don't have how many targets per game he had in those final 8. I can look it up for you, or one of you can look it up, but I don't think it was particularly high. And I wonder if that's a reflection of what the coaches think of him, where they see Ramondre and they go, that guy's got to be our 1A, the running downs back, the short yardage goal line guy. We know he can play on third downs. We know that we can throw to him. We can throw to him on first and second down too, but not on third downs. They've consistently used a separate back on third downs. They've rarely, I think Corey Dillon might have been the last guy where, when there haven't been injuries, they've relied on a 3-down guy in that backfield. So I'm real curious to see the moves that the Patriots make at running back. Fournette does make sense. They love getting those veteran guys who can come in and play. And if it's Fournette, we know that Fournette can play 3 downs as well. He may end up being the guy that plays in those passing down situations.
And I almost view it, what you said, Dave, as like a reflection of the coaching staff in a different way. Like last year, the Patriots had whatever was going on there, a former defensive coordinator / head coach running an offense with help from a special teams coordinator / head coach in Joe Judge and Patricia. So is it a reflection of what they view in the player, or is it just coaches over their heads? And now they have competent coaching and coordinating that offense. And I think potentially it could lead to them realizing, like, hey, Ramondre Stevenson is arguably our best playmaker on offense, especially if Jacoby Myers leaves in free agency, and he's supposed to get an insane contract this free agency just based on the market. So that could almost lead me to believe he has more in store for him. And one thing that's been constant about the Patriots through the years, no matter how many coordinators they've changed, no matter how many running backs have come through, that run game has always worked. They do a really good job coaching up the blocking there with the offensive line. They let tons of guys who are high-name offensive linemen hit free agency, and then they replace them like this. And so I think whatever they're doing, it's a power gap system. It works. So I feel confident about Ramondre pretty much, unless they draft somebody high, which they're probably not going to do at running back.